Good afternoon. I am Annalise Stratman, Project Manager for the Knowledge Hub at the Center for Research and Education on Violence Against Women and Children. Welcome to our research briefing series on outcomes from trauma and violence-informed intervention projects funded by the Public Health Agency of Canada. Today's research briefing focuses on the project Building Internal Resilience Through Horses, a trauma-informed equine-assisted learning program for young women. Our presenters will speak for about 15 minutes. Please enter comments or questions for the presenters into slido.com and use the code 7423, which you will see on the bottom of the screen during the presentation. You will also find links to the presentation slides in slido.com. During the last 5 minutes of our research briefing, I will present some of your questions to our speakers for their response. Now I'm pleased to introduce them. Jennifer Garland is the owner, program director for the Main Intent, Inc. She is the project manager, equine-assisted learning supervisor, and facilitator for the Building Internal Resilience Through Horses project. She has developed the equine experiential learning component of the program. Dr. Keefer is an assistant professor teaching intensive in the Department of Psychology at Trent University. Her research focuses on the development and applications of socio-emotional competencies in the promotion of wellness and resilience across the lifespan. Dr. Keefer is the lead researcher on the Building Internal Resilience Through Horses project. Welcome, Jennifer and Katya.
Thank you, Annalie, for that lovely introduction and the opportunity to share our experience with everyone. I'm Jennifer Garland, and I'm going to talk about our project partners and acknowledge our funder. So this project had three partners who collaborated together for program development and delivery: the Kateryna Sexual Assault Center, Trent University's Emotion and Health Research Laboratory, and the Main Intent, Inc. And as you noted in your introduction, so the Kateryna Sexual Assault Center was the overall program lead, and they provided a social worker and a mental health professional who were accountable for screening and recruitment of participants, psychoeducational content development, expressive arts programming, and grounding activities, and follow-up counseling with our participants if required. Dr. Keefer from Trent University and her team of research students were responsible for the overall research design and completion. And myself and my team at the Main Intent were responsible for overall project management, development of the Equine-Assisted Learning Program, and delivery of that program. We are very grateful to the Public Health Agency of Canada and their contribution fund through the innovation strategy supporting health of victims of domestic violence and child abuse through community programs for their initial contribution fund in 2016 of $465,000, as well as the extension funding we received in 2019 of $158,000. And essentially, that funding enabled us to support a number of project elements, including the Building Internal Resilience Through Horses initiative and the research initiative, as well as a number of community capacity building initiatives that included a website, invitingresilience.ca, a resilience community event in 2018, an Inviting Resilience conference hosted at Trent University in 2019, a somatic experiencing workshop for healthcare professionals and service individuals in 2020, and then finally a program manual published in 2020. So I'm just going to walk us through the program objectives. There were a number of objectives for this particular initiative. The first one was to design, deliver, and evaluate through intervention research an innovative community program with strong evaluative outcomes. We wanted to enhance personal resiliency for young women who have experienced trauma due to domestic violence and/or child abuse. We wanted to demonstrate that equine-assisted learning is an effective intervention approach for building resilience in young women who have experienced interpersonal trauma. Our intent was also to build capacity for trauma-informed practice in the community of Peterborough and surrounding areas for service practitioners who are working with youth who have experienced trauma, and finally, to produce a manual that includes the research project and the program details so it can be replicated in other parts of Canada and, quite frankly, other parts of the world. So why horses? Well, horses are wired for safety and survival. They have evolved as a prey animal, and they have evolved with a strong awareness of their senses and the environment as key to their survival. They are herd animals, they seek community, they seek connections, and they take in our subtle body movements and facial expressions, the quality of our breath, our body energy as vital information for their ultimate safety. So with authenticity and without judgment, they continually respond to and reflect back to us what we are consciously or unconsciously presenting in that moment. So they really invite us to develop emotion regulation, they invite us to develop a sense of mastery, and they invite us to develop a sense of relatedness. So the Building Internal Resilience Through Horses program was essentially a free community-based trauma-informed program for building personal resiliency. We targeted this particular offering to young women aged 13 to 18 years who have experienced or witnessed family violence. And I will say the program can be adjusted for other audiences as well. But this particular program was 12 weeks. It included 8 weeks of equine-assisted learning with 1 month and 6 month and 12-month check-in or booster sessions following the core program. It was based on trauma-informed principles of safety, choice, and trust. It combined education, expressive arts, and working in partnership with horses to teach coping skills and life skills. It's not clinical therapy, and I think it's important to emphasize that. Even though many of our clients suffer from post-traumatic symptoms, it was really intended to be a strengths-based experiential learning program focused on creating opportunities to develop emotion regulation, a sense of mastery, and a sense of relatedness. And we do think with the help of horses, or we do this with the help of horses, the participants would come to our farm. The activities with horses were ground-based. No previous horse experience was required. And participants participated in a mix of small group activities, discussions, reflections, and activities with the horses included things like observing, approaching, leading, and grooming a horse. So participants learn about trauma and how it impacts our body and health. They learn strategies for emotion regulation, coping, self-care, grounding, forming trust and relationships with other group members. They learned how to assert healthy boundaries. They learned how to set goals and manage choices, obstacles, and challenges. They learned how to develop confidence and personal awareness. They developed communication and leadership skills, and they really, ultimately, they learned how to vision success and believe in one's potential to achieve what's possible. So now I'm going to turn the presentation over to our research lead, Dr. Kateryna Keefer, who's going to take us through our research results.
Thank you, Jennifer. We used a mixed methods research design to evaluate our program. Equine-assisted learning is an experiential learning modality, which means it will only work to the extent that participants derive meaning from their interactions with the horses. So it was very important to us to understand the participants' perspective on the program and not just the survey outcomes. And as you can see from the comments on the slides, many participants did note getting something valuable out of the program. This was also reflected in a consistently high attendance rates for our program. 3/4 of the participants attended more than half of the EAL sessions. At the end of each session, we asked participants to give us quick ratings of the session. How satisfied they were, how helpful they found the session, how much did they learn from the session. And for any given session, at least 70% of participants, often more depending on the session, provided positive ratings of mostly or very much. This tells us that participants found the program appealing, valuable, accessible, and for the most part, empowering in their learning. More importantly, participants' experiences in the program were directly linked to changes in their outcomes after the program. For outcome measures, we collected standardized assessments of participants' resiliency factors, socio-emotional competencies, and symptoms of depression and post-traumatic stress. We collected this before and after the program, and also at 1 month and 6 month follow-ups. And in addition, we also compared participants who reported higher value from the sessions versus lower value from the sessions to see if their experiences in the program moderated their outcomes. I don't have time to present all of the results, but I highlight a couple of representative findings. One of the most robust effects was for the area of emotional awareness. Participants showed improvements at the overall group level, and these improvements were still seen at 1 month and 6 month follow-ups. Participants gained better understanding of their own emotions, how their emotions reflect their unmet needs, how their emotions impact those around them. They also learned to accept their emotional experiences, both positive and negative. And many participants credited the horses directly in helping them with acquiring these skills. For those participants who derived greater value from the program, they also showed improvements in their interpersonal or social skills. And again, those improvements were maintained at 1 month and 6 month follow-ups. These participants showed gain in understanding of other people's emotions and communicating their own emotions and needs to others more effectively. Many also commented getting better at asserting their boundaries in the relationships. And another prominent theme here was connections, especially with the horses. Participants who gained greater value from the program also showed greater improvements in their sense of mastery and agency over their lives. EAL activities with the horses are designed to push participants out of their comfort zone in a safe way, but deliberately so. And the experience of overcoming initial nervousness with the horse and accomplishing leading such a large animal as a horse really boosts participants' sense of self-confidence and self-esteem. And many participants were noting how transferable those experiences were to their personal lives. So overall, the program improved participants' core resiliency skills over the long term, sense of relatedness, emotion regulation, and sense of mastery. As for the mental outcomes, we didn't really see much change in participants' depressive or post-traumatic symptoms. And for some participants, especially those who derived less value from the program, there was even a slight increase in their depression levels after the program, which wasn't seen among participants who derived greater value from the program. This might be because, as Jennifer mentioned, our participants had elevated clinical levels of depression even at the start of the program, and they remained elevated at the end of the program. And again, as Jennifer mentioned, this is not surprising because our program was not a clinical therapy. It wasn't designed to treat mental health symptoms. It was designed to build competencies related to resilience. And in that regard, our program did meet its objective, improving core resiliency skills that maintained over time, suggesting that the skills participants were learning in the program were long-term and transferable. And at least this was the case for those participants who derived greater value from the program. But this wasn't the case for all participants. It was clear that some participants didn't really fit with this program. And so it's very important to acknowledge that this program doesn't fit everyone, and no program does. There won't ever be a one-size-fits-all solution. And that is why it's so important to invest into the development and research of programs of all varieties. If you're interested more in our program and the research behind it, please check out the program manual, which can be downloaded on our website at invitingresilience.ca. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jennifer and Katya, for that great presentation. We've really enjoyed learning about the equine-assisted learning program as you've been implementing it over the years, and it's really great to see some of those results come through now. I was wondering, you were talking about how the program doesn't fit for everyone, and we know that there isn't a one-size-fit-all kind of program out there that we should ever expect everyone to succeed in. But given what you've learned with this program, if you were to do it again, what kind of screening, or would you consider some kind of screening for to figure out which people would benefit better from it as they went through it? Have you given that any thought?
How do you want to handle that? Do you want to handle that, Katja? Or?
I can speak to what the research results show, and then Jennifer, you can maybe comment on your personal observations as a facilitator. Sure. Based on our research, we noticed that participants who had very high levels of depressive symptoms were less likely to stick with the program, which is understandable. And so screening for those opportunities to find an alternative program that would meet the needs of the participant better in that regard might be a way to go. We also found that for some participants, comfort with the group was a predictor of their outcomes, and participants who were less comfortable being in a group setting and doing this work in a group setting were less responsive to the program. So again, screening for that group readiness and group safety principles might be another suggestion. Jennifer, any other thoughts?
Just an observation, if an individual is living in crisis, it's really hard for them to, move beyond that state of crisis. And I know part of the screening process that the Kateryna Sexual Assault Center was accountable for was screening for group readiness, understanding where clients were at. All the clients that did participate in the program, had provided consent to participate. And so I think sometimes it's hard to predict what type of program is going to be good, for any particular type of individual. But I think if somebody's living in crisis, that is obviously going to impact a program that's not intended to be clinical in nature is not necessarily going to create the outcome that people were hoping for.
Okay, thanks. One question we have here is do you feel that using certain theory-based interventions, such as CBT or DBT or other modalities, could have supplemented or improved the outcomes for the participants?
I think that's an interesting question. I would say some of the content was actually informed by CBT and DBT. So some of the psychoeducational components of the project, for example, relating thoughts, feelings, and behavior, inner critic, inner champion, a lot of some of the work around emotional regulation. So it wasn't solely the activity with the horse or the equine activity when we were processing as a group, or the sessions all included a grounding activity. There was some education and information sharing, and that information, that education was informed by some of those theoretical orientations.
Okay, great, thank you. So there's lots of interest in this program, and somebody's wondering, is the program solely available for people living in the Kawartha, Peterborough area, or can other individuals from surrounding locations access it?
Well, right now there is a free manual. There is a free manual that is available for download at invitingresilience.ca. I could probably share that we will be launching a facilitator training program in building internal resilience to horses, likely next year here at our farm. But I would encourage communities to partner with others who are providing equine-assisted learning, or community groups to collaborate and offer up the program based on the manual, which is really an excellent manual, in their own community.
Okay. Well, I would like to thank both of you today for taking time to share the results of this amazing program. And we look forward to learning more as you go along. And if you are launching some training, please be sure to share that with us, and we'd love to share that as well. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.